Hey boys and girls, this is Miss Tamara, and I'm here to read. Ooh, who knows what book this is? Have y'all ever seen that movie? Cinderella. Cinderella dressed in yellow. But she ain't dressed in yellow, she dressed in pink. Alright, what is this, the book? The spine. This is the front, and who draws the picture? The illustrator. What is this in the book? The title, and it's Cinderella. Alright, who writes the words in the book? The author. Alright, it says, once upon a time, there lived an unhappy young girl. Her mother had died, and her father had married a widow with 2 daughters. Her stepmother spoiled her own daughters. Nothing was too good for them. Dresses, shoes, parties, whatever they wanted. But for the poor, unhappy girl, there was nothing at all. Her dresses were her stepsister's hand-me-downs. Her dinner was nothing but scraps, and her day was filled with hard work. Only when evening came was she allowed to sit for a while by the fire. Near the cinders, everybody called her Cinderella. Do you see her? One day, beautiful new dresses arrived at the house. A ball was to be held at the palace, and the stepsisters were invited. Y'all know what a ball is? It's a fancy dance where you go and dance and stuff. They call it a ball. Cinderella didn't ask if she could go too. She knew very well what the answer would be. Instead, Cinderella began her chores. She washed the dishes, she scrubbed the floors, and made the beds. You see the pretty dresses? And then what is she doing over here? Cleaning the floors. Do y'all scrub the floors at home? I am so unhappy, she sighed. Suddenly, when Cinderella was all alone, a fairy appeared. What's a fairy? Oh, let's see if we find out. Don't be alarmed, Cinderella, said the fairy. I am your fairy godmother. I know you'll love to go to the ball, and so you shall. Oh, looky there. There's the fairy. The fairy is kind of like a magical person. They can grant her wishes. But I am dressed in rags, sighed Cinderella. The fairy godmother smiled and flicked her magic wand, and Cinderella found herself wearing the most beautiful dress she had ever seen, and Cinderella was speechless. Oh, looky there, looky there. There's Miss Cinderella, and there she is when the godmother waved her magic wand. Does she look beautiful now? Now for your coach, said the fairy godmother. Bring me a pumpkin. Then the fairy godmother turned the cat. Bring me 7 mice. Cinderella soon returned with the pumpkin and the cat with 7 mice. With a flick of her magic wand, the fairy godmother turned the pumpkin into a what? Do y'all know? Have y'all seen that movie? Into a coach. Next, she turned the mice into what? Do y'all know? 6 white horses and a coachman, and Cinderella could hardly believe her eyes. Looky there. How awesome is that? There is one condition, said the fairy godmother. The magic will wear off at the last stroke of what? Do y'all remember? Midnight. So you must be home by then. I will. Thank you, fairy godmother, said Cinderella, beaming. Looky there. Do you see all the white horses? Cinderella's getting into the coach, and she's off to the ball. Uh-oh. What happens when she gets to the ball? Do y'all know? Cinderella had a wonderful time at the ball, dancing with the prince himself. Uh-oh. What's a prince? That's the king's son that lives in the palace. Then, when she heard the first stroke of midnight, without a word of goodbye, she slipped from the prince's arm and ran down the stairs. And what happened when she ran down the stairs? Do y'all remember? Oh, let's see if y'all are right. As she ran, she lost one of her slippers or her shoe. Still away, she fled, vanishing into the night. Who picked up the slipper? Do you remember? Let's see. The prince was now in love with her. He picked up the slipper and said to his ministers, "Search everywhere for this girl whose foot fits this slipper. I will never be happy until I find her." Do you see him? Here she dropped the slipper, and here he's picking it up. The ministers tried to slip her on the foot of every girl in the land, and only until Cinderella was left. That awful, untidy girl simply cannot have been at the ball, snapped her stepmother. The prince ought to marry one of my 2 daughters. To everyone's amazement, the shoe fitted Cinderella perfectly. You see your mean stepmother over here? Excuse me. The fairy godmother appeared and waved her magic wand again. In a flash, Cinderella was transformed in an elegant dress, and Cinderella shone with youth and beauty. Her stepmother and stepsister stared at her in amazement. The ministers had found the prince's true love at last, and Cinderella and the prince married the very next day and lived happily ever after. The end. So, do y'all remember what the pumpkin was turned into? The coach or the carriage. And what were the mice turned into? Ooh, the horse. Do you remember how many horses that they had? There was how many mice? 6. And then they turned into 6 horses. And where was Cinderella going to? All dressed up. To the ball. All right, that was story time for today. Y'all have a great day, and I will talk to you later.